Brothers, I'm bringing horror movies again. Today, I continue the American Horror Story series, The Return of the Dead. I used to think that every ghost in a horror movie must be the villain, but after watching this movie, I even felt a little sorry for this ghost. Without further ado, please follow my explanation and enjoy it slowly. The story begins. A family is celebrating Christmas, but for some reason, the husband started arguing with his wife and pushed his wife down hard. Xiao Mei, who was nearby, was scared, so she ran to the room and locked the door. Since Xiao Mei didn't open the door, so the father took a stick to smash it open. But at this moment, Xiao Mei just opened the door and came out, and the father smashed his daughter to death with a knife. The camera changed. Her father held a grand funeral for her, but the next morning, Xiao Mei woke up from her room, and her body also grew up by more than 10 years. Since the clothes she wore as a child no longer fit her, Xiao Mei just put on a short-sleeved shirt and came to a forest. Dashan, who was taking a walk here, met her. Dashan asked her if she wasn't cold in such little clothes, so he took off his big cotton-padded jacket and gave it to her. But this Dashan was not a good guy. Under the guise of taking Xiao Mei to the hospital, he drove directly to his home. He said his air conditioner worked well, which is comfortable to blow. Then Dashan made a cup of tea for Xiao Mei, and then took out a fleece-lined sweatshirt and offered to help her change into it. And Xiao Mei on the other side didn't refuse, and cooperated with Dashan to take off his clothes. Seeing this, Dashan couldn't help touching it. Then Xiao Mei suddenly grabbed Dashan's hand, pushing him onto the sofa beside her. At this time, Xiao Mei even started dancing. Dashan thought it was some kind of foreplay, but at this moment, Xiao Mei suddenly took out the iron spoon in the cup and took advantage of Dashan's and stabbed it into his throat. Then she drank tomato juice with a satisfied look. When the police received the report and came to Dashan's house, they couldn't find any clues about the murderer. The only thing found at the scene was a little girl's DNA, but she had been declared dead a few days ago. This confused the police. The scene changed. Xiao Mei started to look for a target on the street again. This time, she targeted a white-collar worker. But after following for a while, a voice called her. Zhao Shuai asked her if she wasn't cold in such little clothes, and offered to let her sit in the house. The routine was exactly the same as that of Dashan, seeing that the office worker had been lost, so she simply targeted Zhao Shuai. Zhao Shuai is the owner of a cinema, and he has a better personality than Dashan. After getting a coat for Xiao Mei, he didn't offer to help her change. Instead, he avoided it like a gentleman. But I don't know if she has the guts or not. Xiao Mei deliberately asked Zhao Shuai to take her home, but after making a cup of tea for Xiao Mei, Zhao Shuai said he had to work tomorrow, and went to bed. Since Xiao Mei couldn't find a reason to kill Zhao Shuai, he went out and found the office worker again. The office worker still thought that after washing the car, to have a date with Xiao Mei. But after the car drove out of the car wash, the office worker was cut his throat and died. The police also failed to find the suspect. They only found the DNA of the little girl in the car. Time quickly came to the evening, when Xiao Mei passed by a house. She found a family of 3 having dinner, and lived a very happy life. And she also wanted to have a life like the boy. The camera turns. Zhao Shui, who just got off work and closed the door, he found Xiao Mei sitting at the entrance of the cinema. He asked Xiao Mei where she went last night. Why didn't you tell? And didn't tell him. But Xiao Mei didn't answer him, and asked Zhao Shuai a question. If he could be immortal like a ghost, or like a human, only living for one day, which one would you choose? Zhao Shuai didn't hesitate. He chose the latter. He said if he was like a ghost, he couldn't take care of his favorite cinema, and he couldn't see his father, and he couldn't sit here and talk to you. It turned out that after Xiao Mei was killed by her dad, her soul came to the hell. The god of death asked her to choose one of 2 options. Xiao Mei chose to live forever like a ghost, because she once discovered one night, her father hid from her mother, bringing 3 friends, and several women came to the house, and something indescribable happened, and her father asked her not to tell her mother. After this incident, Xiao Mei decided to kill all the bad guys in the world, so she chose to be a ghost. Then Zhao Shuai asked her what her plans were for tonight. Xiao Mei said no. Zhao Shuai took Xiao Mei to a friend's birthday party. Then Zhao Shuai got drunk, but Xiao Mei wasn't satisfied yet. So after sending Zhao Shuai home, Xiao Mei came to a bar alone again. At this moment, a strong man came over. Xiao Mei remembered. He was the one who was called by his dad to the party. Then the strong man said lewdly to Xiao Mei how much it would cost to get in his car. Xiao Mei just smiled and said nothing. The camera changed. The strong man took Xiao Mei to a hotel. As soon as they entered the room, the strong man hurriedly took off his clothes and put his phone on the bedside, saying to record life. Then, Xiao Mei took the initiative to push the strong man onto the bed. The strong man thought, "Are girls so wild now?" The next second, a spoon stabbed into his throat. Just as Xiao Mei was sucking tomato juice, the door suddenly opened. A cleaner saw all this. Xiao Mei chased after him directly. The cleaner also quickly ran away. When passing through a steep slope section, Xiao Mei suddenly rushed over and stabbed him with a spoon. Then the cleaner died. Xiao Mei dragged the body to a haystack, but the next morning, the police still found the body. At this time, Zhao Shuai was taking Xiao Mei to watch wrestling. Zhao Shuai said his father would come later, and he would go to say hello to his friend first. Then he took out a photo of his father on his phone, saying if Xiao Mei saw him, she should wave her hand. Then Zhao Shuai left, but when Xiao Mei looked at the phone, she found that the person in the photo was the cleaner who was killed last night. Xiao Mei was completely panicked, and the police also called at this time, telling Zhao Shuai that his father had been killed. Xiao Mei felt extremely remorseful. She had killed the father of the man she loved. So Xiao Mei returned to the other world again, and begged the god of death to let her choose again. She wanted to be reborn as a human, even if it was only for an hour. Then the god of death agreed to Xiao Mei's request. Then Xiao Mei woke up again in her room. She walked down the stairs, and found herself on Christmas Day. Then her father pushed her mother to the ground. The young Xiao Mei hid in the room in fear, just as her father was about to hit her with a stick. Grown-up Xiao Mei grabbed the stick. Then Damai glanced at Xiao Mei, pushed her father into a room. Soon, there was a sound of fighting inside. When Xiao Mei opened the door and ran in to check, Damai made a shushing gesture to her, telling her not to talk, and there was blood on her fingers. When Xiao Mei bent down to check, she found that her father had been beaten to death. And finally, the funeral that was originally for Xiao Mei turned into her father's funeral. At the end of the story, Dashin returned home with his dog as usual. Zhao Shuai closed the cinema and ended the day. The office worker finished washing his car in the car wash. The strong man also returned to the hotel alone to sleep. It's as if nothing had happened. Only the dead person became Xiao Mei and her father. The movie ends here.